Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. Thank you for watching Sunday Live. We're going to talk about 3 new Gigafactories. Before we get started, I got to prop the shirts. Wearing the Tesla and Air t-shirt. I'm going to make, at some point, I'm going to make a video about the t-shirts. But if you like the t-shirts, please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Let's talk about what's going on with 3 new Gigafactories. Kansas announced that Panasonic is going to spend $4 billion, invest $4 billion to build a 4680 cell factory in DeSoto, Kansas. This is just outside Kansas City, on the Kansas side of Kansas City. Kansas City is in 2 states. There's Kansas City, Missouri, which I believe is larger, and Kansas City, Kansas, which is smaller, but they're basically one city. There's a huge advantage to the Kansas side of the line. If you look here, this is the right-to-work states. The dark ones, the dark green ones, are right-to-work states, states where unions have less power. And Kansas is a right-to-work state. Missouri is a pro-union state. So you can see the Northeast supports unions, the West Coast supports unions. But a lot of states, like Texas, are pro-employer and not pro-union. So if you're going to locate a factory, it would make sense to locate it in Kansas rather than Missouri if you're concerned about unionization. Kansas City is a big city. The metropolitan area is fairly large with a population of 2.2 million people. What I've heard about Kansas City, I talked to some people from the area, is it's a big city, it's a place people want to be, it's a place young people want to be. There is an arts community there. There's the Kansas City Chiefs, which is one of the most exciting NFL football teams. There's the Kansas City Royals, a well-established Major League Baseball team. University of Kansas is fairly close to DeSoto, where the battery factory is going to be. And all of these things come together to say, if you're Tesla, where are you going to locate your next Gigafactory in the United States? I think we're going to see more factories built in Austin, but Kansas City makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. It's close compared to Austin. It's close to a lot of Midwestern cities, and it's closer to the Northeast. It's closer to Chicago. It's closer to St. Louis. It's closer to Indianapolis, Nashville, which isn't really Midwest, but you can see there, Indianapolis. There's all these cities, and Detroit. Hey, Detroit, guess who's coming? So Tesla builds a factory in Kansas City. That means the battery cells that Panasonic makes in Kansas City don't have to travel all the way to Austin and then travel back to the customers. So I think we're going to see a Tesla Gigafactory in Kansas City. You're going to see this paralleled in the 2 other places I'm going to talk about. But Kansas City it's a happening place. It's a place where one of Elon's big standards for where we're going to build factories is he wants to build factories in places where people want to be. Don't forget the band Kansas. Places where young engineers want to be. They want to be in Austin. They want to be in Berlin. So I think Kansas City is that type of place that young people would like to be. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of fun. And by the way, there's a big river. I think it's the Missouri River. And the Missouri River means there's a lot of water supply for your battery factory, for your car factory. So all these things are good, very exciting. It looks like Tulsa lost out to Kansas City. I can see that. I think Tulsa is just not as big of a city. It's not as dynamic. I actually know a young person who lives outside of Tulsa, who doesn't think Tulsa's that exciting of a place to be and wants to go somewhere more exciting, like Austin. So that's the first one, Kansas City. A lot of good things to see there. University of Kansas, there's a lot going on in the basketball engineering program. University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is on the other side of the line, but good engineering programs in both places that can support, you need infrastructure to support your plan, to support your factory, support what you're trying to do. And so Kansas City has that kind of infrastructure to be a good place to locate factories. So I think we're going to see Giga KC coming soon, probably announced in 2023, built and operating in 2024. An interesting question is, what are these factories going to build? Are we going to see more Model Ys, more Model 3s? Will the robo-taxi, my original understanding of the robo-taxi model that's coming was going to use lithium iron phosphate batteries. So will the robo-taxi also have a version that uses 4680 cells? That's a possibility. We're going to see where that goes. There's also possible that they're building this cell factory and they're just going to ship the cells to Austin. but I think it makes a lot of sense to build a Tesla factory in Kansas City because it's a great point. It's a great place to distribute cars to the Northeast and the Midwest, get you closer than Austin. Austin can focus on the South and Florida and maybe the Southwest. Fremont can focus on the West Coast. Maybe Austin starts exporting cars to Latin America. I don't know what happens there. A lot of possibilities. Okay, so next. LG Energy is investing $451 million to mass produce Tesla 4680 battery cells. This is in Cheongju, South Korea. Please forgive my pronunciation, Koreans. I apologize. I probably got your pronunciation wrong. Cheongju, South Korea is going to have a 4680 cell factory. Why would LG Chem build a 4680 cell factory in South Korea unless Tesla is going to build a Gigafactory in South Korea? So it turns out that Daejeon is right near this location, Cheongju. Daejeon is South Korea's 5th largest city, population 1.5 million people, known for its technology and research institutions and for celebrating its natural environment, 50 minutes from the capital, Seoul, by rail. So it's a good place to be. It's a tech hub, right? It's a tech and research hub. So there's a lot of young engineers, a lot of people who are sophisticated who could be there. So I'm going to talk about why South Korea and Japan make sense in another sense in a minute. But I just wanted to say that's a very promising sign that Daejeon, South Korea, probably cost of living might be a little lower than Seoul, which is the big city. I didn't look into that much, but a lot of opportunities here. So South Korea, we'll talk about why South Korea, and Japan is the next one. Panasonic is building their 4680 they announced a 4680 cell factory in Kansas City, but they're already building one in Wakayama, Japan, which is right outside of Osaka. I've been pumping Giga Osaka for a long time. I talked to a Tesla insider at one point, told him my theory about Giga Osaka. He didn't say no. He thought it was interesting. He definitely was like, I could feel that he was hiding something when I said that. So, in Osaka, the Kansai region of Japan is the 2nd largest population center in Japan outside of Tokyo. Osaka is close to Kyoto. Kyoto is arguably the cultural capital of Japan. Kobe is another, that's a big port in Kobe. So the Kansai region of Japan is a big place. There are 2 places in Japan that most people want to be. They want to be in the Tokyo area, which is known as the Kanto Plain, the Kanto region, and they want to be in the Kansai area, Kansai where Kyoto is. I personally thought Kyoto was absolutely spectacular. Osaka's industrial, Kobe's industrial. Kyoto is just this spectacular place. It's kind of like a college town feel. Plus it has all these great cultural sites. So a lot going on there. So somebody mentioned this. Let's go into this. The 7 largest car markets in the world, and this is misleading a little bit. China's the largest car market. United States is number 2. Japan is the 3rd largest car market in the world. Now, if you could say Europe is one market, then Europe is bigger market than Japan. But Japan's car market is significantly bigger than Germany's. Now, India and Brazil are on the list, but their vehicles are much less expensive. Typical vehicle in India is less than $10,000. Brazil, it's probably about $10,000. So South Korea, even though it's number 7 on this list, is really behind Germany. It's really ahead of India and Brazil because the value of the cars, the price of the cars in South Korea is higher. So even though it looks like it's behind India, South Korea is basically the 5th largest car market in the world. So you've got the 5 largest car markets in the world covered with China, the US, Japan, Germany, and South Korea. It makes sense. So, and that's why I think we're going to see 3 Gigafactories. Did I live in Japan? Yes, Kern. I lived in Hiroshima, Japan for a year. Eikai wa kyoshi toshimashita. I was an English teacher in Japan for a year. I graduated from law school and there were no jobs. And I had taken 2 years of college Japanese, and a friend of mine in Kitakyushu, Japan, invited me to come stay with him and look for a job teaching English. Found a job teaching English. Was a blast. So, Karpathy. Somebody in the chat asked me to address Karpathy. I'm glad somebody brought it up because I forgot to bring it up. Oh, Lucid Q. I should talk about Lucid. Karpathy announced that he is leaving Tesla. Difficult decision to part ways. talked about all the progress they saw on autopilot. Looks forward to seeing the exceptionally strong autopilot team continue that momentum. Says he has no concrete plans for what's next, but looks forward to spending more time revisiting his long-term passions around technical work in AI, open source, and education. So, and he also mentioned, he said more about the exceptionally strong autopilot team. Same thing Elon has said, that the Tesla AI team, the Tesla autopilot team is large. There's a lot of talented engineers, a lot of hardworking people on the team. And Elon and Andrej get all the attention. People don't even realize that Andrej is the director of AI, and Ashok is the director of the autopilot team. And there's other people involved. There's a lot of engineers involved in this team. And, you know, Andrej's important, but there's a lot of important people working at Tesla doing a lot of great things. So I wanted to focus on this. People are like, oh, he's leaving because they're not going to be able to deliver FSD. You know, 10.13 is coming. We're going to see big improvements. We're going to continue to see big improvements. Version 11 is coming. More is coming. But what did he say? He wants to spend more time revisiting his long-term passions around technical work in artificial intelligence, open source, and education. Here's my prediction. Andrej wants to work in a university. He's made tons of money. He's probably made $50 million. I'm making up the number. He's got more than $10 million banked in Tesla stock and whatever. And he wants to go back to an academic environment. And I could see Karpathy going to Stanford University and saying, I want to start my own AI lab. And I've got funding, and Elon will kick in funding, and other people will kick in funding. And he'll bring in grant money, and he'll get $500,000 or $1 million a year to be a star professor. Anybody who wants to study AI is going to want to go wherever Andrej goes to teach. He's going to be teaching. He's going to be leading research, especially the PhD students who want to do research. They're going to want to be researching with Andrej. It will be a major draw for any university to have Andrej Karpathy. And that technical work in AI, open source, and education, this sounds like he wants to be in academia. That's my take on Karpathy. I think he wants to be in academia. I don't think he can be bought by the private sector. I think, you know, the pace of work at Tesla was very, very hard. He worked very hard. Being a professor isn't necessarily easy, but the time demands and the time pressures are much less. And I think he sees a great opportunity to move on to that world, get a little bit more relaxation in life, maybe have time for women and that type of thing. I don't know. So, and yeah, I think I would expect, if you ever notice, Elon says a lot of nice things about J.B. Straubel, who is left Tesla and started up his own company, Redwood Materials, for battery recycling. Elon's going to say nice things about Karpathy. He already said something nice to Karpathy right after Karpathy's tweet. Elon tweeted 1 minute later, so they coordinated their tweets. So, yeah, I think we're going to see Karpathy show up at some university. He's probably going to be talking to Stanford. Stanford's probably his #1 choice. Berkeley's probably not far behind. But there's other universities he could talk to. And I think we're going to see him end up somewhere. And it's probably going to be going around talking to different universities. Who has great AI programs already? MIT is another possibility. And maybe, I kind of wonder if he's watched Lex Fridman and he said maybe he could start a podcast along with his university position, and he could start doing interviews with people and talking about this stuff. And, you know, maybe he sees that as a path as well, because Lex Fridman was a machine learning professor at MIT, started his podcast and ended up with this very, you know, significant podcast. So maybe Karpathy adds that, because he seems to love talking to people. He's great at presenting to audiences. So I could totally see that as another line for Karpathy. So, all right, let me look at the, real quick. Another t-shirt ad. I'm pumping Elon Bits. I'm just trying something different. I'm pumping elonbits.com today. This is the next Tesla t-shirt. Right, you know, we're at a flat point now. The you are here moved. We're in the dip right now. When I originally made the shirt, we were still rising. So we're in the dip right now, but we're going to continue rising. So, you know, look at the part of the curve that's coming. Okay, the stock is going to go up. Right now we're, I don't know, 700 or somewhere around $700 a share. It's going to the moon. It's going to 10,000. It's taking its time, but it's going to get there. And the curve keeps going up. It really should go up the shoulder and off, but the technology for the shirt printing won't let me do it. So let me just look right here. Yeah, just elonbits.com if you like the t-shirts. I love the t-shirts. I wear them all the time. So, all right, let's go. Ontario would be a good spot for a Gigafactory. Canada's a terrible place for a Gigafactory because of their union crap. It's not an employer-friendly country. All right, we did that. So, on another topic, Elon talked about Mars a bit. Pranay always seems to respond to Pranay Padhol. I don't know who this guy is. I love this guy. But Elon responds to this guy all the time. He asks Elon, what is the estimated time frame for creating a self-sustaining civilization on Mars? Is it 20 years? Self-sustaining meaning not relying dependent on Earth for supplies. Elon says 20 to 30 years from first human landing if launch rate growth is exponential. You'd have to transfer 100,000 people in each rendezvous. Earth and Mars rotate the sun at different paces, and they get close to each other every 26 months. So about every 2 years, on average, Elon's saying we got to send 100,000 people. Obviously, the first couple cycles, you won't be sending 100,000 people. The first cycle, you're going to send 10 people, 20 people, I don't know. You're going to get started setting things up. You're probably going to have Tesla bots helping out because Tesla bots don't need air. Tesla bots are very good for working on the surface of Mars. I think we're going to see that happen. And once they get some infrastructure set up, some solar panels, propellant, they need to manufacture propellant. They need to manufacture methane and liquid oxygen using the Sabatier process on Mars. You need a lot of solar panels to generate the electricity. You need to get to the water ice on Mars and the CO2 in the Martian atmosphere. If you can generate enough propellant, then the ships can come. The ships can come back. People who want to come home can come home. But ideally, 100,000 people go to Mars and stay every 2 years. And so after the first 10 years of getting things together, I think it's really 30 years from first human landing, you could get to the point where you have enough people and you have enough infrastructure, because you're not just sending people, you're sending material with them. You're sending payloads with them so that they can build infrastructure. They can build maybe steel plants. They can build nuclear power plants. Who knows what they can build on Mars. Build the things you need so that you can make a growing, not just self-sustaining, but a growing civilization on Mars. That's what's needed. So, covered that. And then I just wanted to mention, Elon talked about polar launches. This is a polar launch, a Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg on July 10th or 11th. I was there. Apparently there's thunder around me. Lightning and thunder. I'm seeing the lightning, but you guys can't see the lightning, but there's thunder. So, and I saw a spider in my car and I'm freaking out, like panicking that I'm gonna get bit by a spider. So, I saw a Starlink launch from the Atlantic. And then 2 or 3 days later, I was in California and I saw a Starlink launch from Vandenberg. Starlink is expanding and we're seeing good progress with Starlink. So this is exciting stuff. And I got to brag, I have Starlink. I named my Starlink Ian Banks. That's the author of the Culture series, which is supposedly Elon's favorite science fiction. So I am not doing this video from my Starlink because my Starlink still has some outages. You're seeing, like, they're brief outages mostly, and this is last night. There's been some blockage issues. I may have to cut down a tree to improve my signal. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to cut down this tree. I may try to cut. There's a small tree that's in a bad position, so I might just maybe cut down that tree. I'm going to make a decision. I cut down some really small trees that were in the way, and I have a pretty good signal most of the time, but this morning I was getting a lot of blockages, so I'm thinking about it. Okay, so, and just a really quick picture. So this is my Model X. The cabin is just beyond it, and you can see the Starlink on that. That container is sitting on top of a shallow well, which I don't use. I could use, but I don't use. And right now the Starlink is facing west, but in the picture, but it's actually mostly facing north, so it would be turned to that way. It would be turned that way. So very cool. My cabin had poor signal. I had like 1 bar. I would lose signal a lot. I was on Clubhouse and I would keep cutting out. And now I have fantastic signal, and it's only going to get better because all these Starlink launches are improving the network, and especially these polar launches are improving the network. And we're going to start seeing a greater spread of Starlink. Now, I'm only in this cabin for like 5 or 6 more days. Yeah, 5 more days, 4 or 5 more days. And then I'm going back to a house, and then I'm going to be going on a road trip. I'm going to go to Austin, Texas. I'm going to spend about a week in Austin, Texas. So I won't be using my Starlink. I'm paying for Starlink and not using it for a little while. But roughly August 8th, I'm hoping to be established at Canaveral, in the Canaveral area. Right now, I'm thinking it's probably going to be Merritt Island. I got an office space lined up, assuming they ever send me a written lease. And I'm going to use the Starlink there. And we'll use the Starlink consistently, and I should have a clear view of the sky from the balcony of the office space. Base launch viewing parties from the balcony, and YouTubers, other people invited to come hang out. And I expect to increase my production of YouTube videos and other videos at this space. These videos and others in this space. I'm very excited about this. Okay, I asked my supporters on Locals, on YouTube channel members, and Patreon if they had questions for this week's Q&A. I didn't get a lot of response. I got one question from Jim Whitehead, who is one of the moderators in the chat usually. Jim's talking about this is a good question. Number one, some Tesla haters now spread a new fear. Allowing non-Tesla EVs into the network of superchargers will create a tragedy of the commons where old slow leafs bolts will clog it up and ruin Tesla superchargers. So let's be clear. First of all, there aren't that many other EVs. And the people who have those EVs don't go on road trips that much because it's hard to road trip in a vehicle with 200 miles of range. Because even if you use the Tesla supercharger network, if you have 200 or 220 miles of range, you're gonna, like, I have 330 miles or 333 miles of range in this car, and I typically only go 180 miles between superchargers. Maybe I can push it to 200, 220, depending on how I charge. If you're going 85 miles an hour, you don't have as much range as if you go 65 miles an hour, and I go 85 miles an hour. So, or 80 miles an hour, depends on the speed zone, of course. So, how's the thunder sound? Can you guys hear that? Oh, we'll talk about Twitter in a minute, Michael. Thank you for bringing that up. So I think that the volume of other EVs that would use Tesla superchargers is going to be a relatively small and trivial factor. And don't forget, they're building a lot more superchargers. And they're raising the prices. This is one of the things, I'm probably going to make a video in the next week or so talking about the potential for Tesla to make money on superchargers. Because, like, in my area, supercharger pricing's gone up a lot. There's off-peak and peak charging rates in South Florida, in Palm Beach County and Broward County. Off-peak was 19 cents a kilowatt hour, which really isn't that much more than you pay at home. You could pay like 10 or 11 cents a kilowatt hour at home. And it was 38 cents for peak time. It's now 28 cents a kilowatt hour off peak and 56 cents a kilowatt hour peak. And the striking thing, oh, big thunder coming. I just saw two lightning bolts hit at the same time. The striking thing is that it's like a fireworks show. The striking thing is that, I don't know, is it safe to be under a tree in a car? We're going to see more and more superchargers come out, but I don't think they're raising prices just because I don't think the price of electricity has gone up in Florida. So I don't think they're raising prices because their costs have gone up. I think they're raising prices because they're trying to encourage people to charge at home. If they can shift people, if by raising prices they can shift people to charging at home, they can get more people to buy Tesla home chargers. They can get more people to charge in other ways. Then that frees up the supercharger network so that the supercharger network doesn't get jammed. I think that's part of the idea. And there is one supercharger near me that was off-peak price 24 hours a day, and they moved that one back onto the peak off-peak pricing. And there's probably another one, Delray Marketplace in Delray Beach, and there's one in Plantation that were priced at the off-peak price all the time. They're not very busy chargers, and I think the idea was get people to go to those chargers to free up the 250 kilowatt chargers. So they have to manage demand on the supercharger network. So if they can discourage people from supercharging and encourage them to charge somewhere else, that's better. And maybe it encourages more people to buy home chargers. So, I don't think it's a big deal. No, I want to say this. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think the other EVs are going to be that much of an imposition on the supercharger network. Here in Florida, the supercharger network is not overwhelmed. There are places in the country where it's overwhelmed, like California. Apparently there's, because there's a lot more Teslas, they have a lot more issues with wait. I almost never wait for a supercharger in Florida. Almost never, like once or twice, and I've had Teslas for about a year now. Once or twice I've waited for superchargers here. It's rare. But the other side of this is, how much money is Tesla making on superchargers? Drew Baglino was talking at Stanford and said, you know, they have to do profit and loss for their superchargers. And he compared to swap. He said he didn't see how you could make a profit on swap. You'd have to lose money on swap, and they have to make money on superchargers. But if you think about it, if Tesla owns 30,000 superchargers and the average supercharger makes, I don't know, $100 a day, that's something. But maybe it makes $1,000 a day. I don't know, you know, how that could add up to significant money. It's not billions, right? But then as they expand the supercharger now, you know, that's like an interesting question. How much money do they make? Do they make $1,000 a day per charger? It's not game-changing money for Tesla, right? Because I think $1,000 a day is probably too much per supercharger, and $1,000 times 30,000 superchargers is only $30 million, and that's a drop in the bucket for Tesla. So it certainly makes sense for Tesla to roll out more superchargers. All right. So to get access to their fast superchargers, Tesla could charge a one-time fee of $3,000 per EV. That's an interesting point. How does Tesla, they might provide access to superchargers for non-Tesla EVs, but charge them a higher price, that the non-Tesla EVs might pay a higher price per kilowatt hour, or the non-Tesla EVs might have to pay a fee to access the superchargers. I think it's the price. Let's see if you can wirelessly charge your Tesla with those bolts. Now, what was the, wait, somebody asked a question I wanted to answer. Let's see. What was the question I wanted to answer? Any thoughts on Twitter lawsuits? Okay, so let me get this off the screen. Twitter lawsuits. I think that Twitter, I loved Elon's comment that if you look at Twitter's filing, said that Elon's damaging shareholder value, which is nonsense because Twitter stock has held up better than the rest of the market because it looks like Elon's going to buy the company, right? So Twitter stock is higher than it would have been if Elon hadn't started this process. But Elon in the Elon's response to something Twitter filed, Elon said, I own 9%, they were saying that Elon's trying to destroy shareholder value, and Elon's like, I own 9.6% of the company. I own more than the board. I think the board owns less than 0.96% of the company. So Elon owns like 10 times as much stock as the entire board of directors of Twitter. So who has more interest in Twitter's shareholder value, Elon or the board? It seems pretty obvious. So I think it's a dance to see what kind of share price they're going to end up with. They're going to end up with some kind of deal. It's a dance back and forth, and ultimately they'll make some kind of negotiated deal. You know, it doesn't... Twitter runs this risk. I thought I talked about this. I made a video about a lawyer's perspective on the lawsuits already. But I think Twitter's biggest risk, the board's biggest risk is they don't make a deal, and the judge rules Elon has to pay Twitter $1 billion. And then the transaction doesn't go through, and Twitter stock falls from, let's say, a $28 billion market cap to a $20 billion market cap, plus $1 billion in cash. Right? So shareholders lose $7 billion in value. Versus you make a deal with Elon to sell the company for $34 billion instead of $44 billion, and the shareholders make $6 billion. So it's like a $13 billion swing for shareholders if the board doesn't make a deal. Is there much of a chance that a judge is going to order Elon to go through at $44 billion? I don't think so. I don't know. There's this concept of irreparable harm that they allege. I think irreparable harm is really hard to prove. I'm not an expert in this area of law, but my gut is that rather than waiting for a judge to make a decision, there'll be an opportunity to make a deal at a lower share price. And the risk to Twitter shareholders that they don't get the specific performance, the judge doesn't force Elon to buy the company, the risk to the shareholders is huge. And the risk to the board, if they don't make a deal and they end up, the share value at the stock market price and the market cap ends up dropping to 20 billion, they're all going to get sued like crazy. So Elon's going to give them some, negotiated proposal, and they're going to have to take it. That's my take, but it's not my area of law. I'm not an expert on this stuff. So, did I talk about the factories yet? Kairav, I talked about the factories at the beginning of the video. I believe that we're going to see Gigafactories in Kansas City, in Daejeon, South Korea, and in Osaka, Japan, which I've been saying Osaka for a long time, so that's not a surprise. In the future, will you be able to charge your Tesla at a supercharger, or will it be for other EV brands only? No, the superchargers will be for Teslas and other EV brands at some point. Non-Tesla EVs better be charged a higher price. I think it probably will be a higher price for non-Tesla EVs, but I don't know. I mean, maybe you should get a good road to your cabin with a large potted blind. That makes the road disappear. The path to my cabin from once you enter the property is obscured, so the cabin is not visible from the dirt road. Call it a road. The sand road outside my outside my property. Let's see. Trees attract lightning. Yes, they do. Getting sweet government funding by opening to all EVs. Yeah, I mean, if the government is going to give them money to build superchargers, then they might as well take it. I'm not really. I guess I'm sort of under the tree. Starbucks and Whole Foods should install them, would attract more business. I think Starbucks and McDonald's should install superchargers, or at least destination chargers. Like, imagine your Starbucks. You know, a lot of people come to Starbucks and they just get a coffee and go, but a lot of people hang out at Starbucks and then they buy more stuff. So you can imagine if you installed destination chargers and you got, you know, let's say a 10 kilowatt charger or a 16 kilowatt charger, and you hang out for an hour and you get 16 kilowatt hours. I'd probably go to Starbucks. I'd go to McDonald's. I'd buy something. I just went to McDonald's. I had lunch at McDonald's for the free Wi-Fi. So, and what am I at? What's my battery life at? I don't know what my battery's at. I'm down in the 30s. I need to go get free charging. There's no where I'm located, and my plea to Drew Baglino, please build the supercharger in Sebring, Florida, because my nearest supercharger is like 30 miles away. So I gotta go like hunt for free free destination chargers. That's what I'm doing after this video. Driving over to the free charger to see if I can get in on it. There were two Teslas on it yesterday. They were blocked. I couldn't get in. Is there a portable battery range extender that plugs straight into the car? That doesn't. People talk about portable battery range extenders. It doesn't make sense. You'd be carrying extra mass. There's plenty of superchargers. You don't need that. Could JB have left just to provide somewhere to suck up all the Roadrunner discards? How many tons of those primed the Redwood Star? I don't know what Roadrunner discards are. Do I have a boat? No boat yet. I don't think I'm going to get a boat. Why not send an Optimus fleet on the first batch of Mars settlers instead of risking human life? Mars ain't no joke. It's going to be rough out there. Just saying. I don't believe that the bots will be able to act independently sufficiently to do meaningful work on Mars without humans to direct them. And I think we want humans on Mars. So. And I'm parked under the tree, by the way, for the shade, which I guess I don't need anymore since we're cloudy. Starlink on Mars. There will be a Starlink network on Mars. Elon has said that. The Tesla story represents the amount of drag unions have had on big auto. Striking the most profitable made the second mover advantage doesn't exist for Tesla. You don't think Tennessee is too close to Austin for a Gigafactory? I don't think Kansas City is too close to Austin for a Gigafactory. No, I think Kansas City... Let me put this map up. Right to work states. So Austin is down near roughly near the X in Texas. I think it's actually below the X in Texas. Kansas City is, I don't know, that's probably, I don't know, 800 miles north. I don't think it's 1,000 miles north, but it's probably 800 miles north. If you're looking for right to work states and you want to be closer to the Midwest and the Northeast, Kansas City's not bad. And you got the river, so you got water. You know, I suppose you could have gone to Kentucky or Indiana, and maybe that would have been better. I'm sure there's a reason that they chose Kansas City, and maybe incentives from the state. Yeah, you know, Kentucky or Indiana might have made more sense. Virginia is a high-cost state. I think there are auto factories in Indiana and Kentucky, so those might have made more sense in some sense, be a little further from Austin, but I don't know the rationale. It's a good question. Upstate New York wouldn't make sense because it's not a right-to-work state, and there's no battery factory in upstate New York. It's a solar factory. Where am I located now? I am in Lake Placid, Florida. Philip asked. I'm in Lake Placid, Florida. I'm using the Lake Placid, Florida's library's Wi-Fi. The library is closed for Sunday, but the Wi-Fi is running, so I'm here. Let's see. See. Oh, Mars Cars Chips and Dips could be a good t-shirt. That's not bad. Oh, Lucid. Okay, so somebody mentioned Lucid Q. I don't have a lot of news on Lucid Motors. I've definitely talked to people. One of my friends who has been constantly arguing with me at Lucid, who's like consistently said, no, Lucid's got good material, Lucid's going to make it, so on and so forth, just told me he sold his Lucid stock. Somebody who is an industry insider, has inside information. He says, look, it's a good car. He's not trashing the car. He thinks the Lucid Air is a good car. It's just they chose a space where they got to compete with the EQS. They got to compete with the Model S, the Mercedes EQS, the Model X, the Porsche Taycan, the Audi e-tron. They chose this sedan space, and there's a lot of competition, and there isn't that big of a market. Where like Rivian chose pickup trucks and really off-road oriented pickup trucks and SUVs, they picked a space where there isn't a lot of competition among electric vehicles. And so, you know, when you add that to the fact that Lucid has a limited cash pile, that they don't really seem to be scaling their manufacturing as far as we know, I think Lucid's in trouble. I've been saying it for a long time. They're in trouble. There's going to be a problem. So, you know, ultimately it's a question of whether the Saudis are going to continue to backstop the company. Will the Saudis throw more money after this into this pig? I think they might, but will that dilute shareholders? You know, how does that play out for Lucid shareholders? And can Lucid ultimately compete? Can they get a vehicle that people actually want to buy? The Project Gravity, is Project Gravity really coming? Will Project Gravity really sell? We'll see. Huge challenge. Let's see. Tesla research on sodium-ion batteries in the future, potentially. Drew Baglino mentioned sodium-ion batteries, but I think he mentioned it in the context of looking for others to show that it was viable as a technology they could use. He thought it made sense for energy storage. That the energy density isn't right for cars, but it would make sense for energy storage, and it would be another supply of battery materials so that if you have a shortage of lithium, you can use sodium-based batteries and still make progress. So if somebody can deliver meaningful sodium-ion batteries, great. Let's see. Hyundai electric SUV is the only real Tesla competitor, closest thing to competition. I don't think Hyundai and Kia. First of all, we need to stop saying that EVs are competition for Tesla. There are other EVs out there that are pretty good. Polestar 2. I like the Mustang Mach-E. I like the Taycan. I think the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 are okay EVs. Stop thinking about them as competing with Tesla. They're competing with gas cars. 98% of the market is gas cars. 2%, Tesla has less than 2% of the market. If you're building a new EV, are you going to try to take market share from the guy with 2% or the guys with 98%? So this constant notion that these EVs compete with Tesla is a false story. Tesla sells every car they make, and the other EV makers sell every car they make. They're not cutting into each other's sales. They're cutting into gas cars, and we all want that. We all want to see more EVs and fewer gas cars. Better for the air we breathe. There is no Tesla phone. Stop talking about it. There's never going to be a Tesla phone. There's no reason to build a Tesla phone. Android and Apple are making advanced, innovative phones, and there's nothing special that Tesla has to offer that would make a 10x improvement on the phone. Will Tesla still increase prices even if inflation goes down? Elon said if inflation comes down, they'll start lowering prices. That was a tweet, and he answered that today. But the practical reality is this. As long as they have sufficient demand for their cars with the higher prices, why would they lower prices? If they can't make enough cars for the demand that they have, then there's no reason to lower prices. They would just be giving away money. That wouldn't be good for shareholders. That wouldn't be good for the people who own the company. So, let's see. Did I hear about one of the Toyota battery electric vehicles getting recalled because of the wheels coming off? I don't think Toyota's serious about battery electric vehicles yet. I don't even worry about it. Any product roadmap updates for Tesla during earnings? I don't think so. I think the big update is going to be the AI Day 2. I will be attending the Tesla shareholder meeting. At least I got an email saying I was in, and I submitted the appropriate documents, so hopefully I will be in. So I'm planning to drive to Austin I'll get there about a week early. I'm going to explore Austin. I'm 90+% sure I want to live in Canaveral for the future, and I'm going to spend a year in Canaveral, but I want to take a look at Austin and see, do I potentially want to move to Austin instead of Canaveral? I have personal reasons, in particular, my family. My children are closer to Florida or in Florida, and I would rather be closer to my children. But if Austin was compelling and Canaveral sucks, then maybe I would move. But I really think I'm going to love the Canaveral area. So, been there a lot. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if there's other future there. Ben says Lucid is doing great pumping out the cars as seen on Bear's videos. I haven't seen that. Do we have volume numbers? How about a generator for the Apocalypse cabin to charge the Tesla? No, actually, what I'm working on, I'm talking to the guy, a friend of mine built the cabin, and he put in 750 watts of solar. And what I'd like to do is add some ground solar, maybe 1.6 kilowatts, 400 watt panels on a ground solar. I found a ground solar mount that would hold 4 panels. That's like $400 for the mount. And you have to pour a little bit of concrete and get some pipes or something to set it up. But maybe spend a couple $1,000s and go from 750 watts to 2.5 gigawatts, 2.5 kilowatts, and then upgrade the batteries. Right now it has lead acid batteries. I want to upgrade the batteries to lithium iron phosphate batteries, or maybe keep the lead acid batteries and add lithium iron phosphate batteries. I got to talk to my friend to see if that's viable. He's the engineer. He knows more about how this would work. Pod car project is on hold until I get into my place, until I get into a steady place, which is hopefully mid-August. That's when the pod car project moves forward. Good question, Admiral Medjay. Thank you for asking. Non-Tesla, let's see. Toyota and Honda, Ontario. Do I know how many billion miles of driving data Tesla currently has? A lot. They have a lot of driving data. Hi, Adrian. Let's see. Japan has nice transparent toilets. That's the other thing I need for the cabin is running water. Any boa constrictors visit the Apocalypse cabin yet? I haven't seen, I know I've seen snakes in the area, but I haven't seen any snakes on the property. I'm sure they're there. I've seen bears on the property in the past. I've seen deer on the road. No factories in it. I don't see Indonesia coming, but we'll see. I don't think Indonesia makes sense for a car factory. What is the risk to Tesla shareholders if they do force a $44 billion buyout? So, sorry, that's about Twitter. So if Elon is forced to buy out Twitter at $44 billion price, what is the risk to Tesla shareholders? None. It has nothing to do with Tesla. They're building factories. They're building cars. In the short term, does Elon have to sell a little more stock? And does that affect the price in the short term? Maybe. But does it affect the business of Tesla? No. They build cars. They build energy. They're working on AI. They've got a whole bunch of things they're doing, and none of that. Twitter has nothing to do with anything that the company is doing. Are the courts in Vermont fair or corrupt? I have no opinion on the courts in any state. All right, I think just going to see Australia. I don't see Australia. Australia is too small of a car market. How is FSD progressing from your experience? I don't have beta anymore. I have beta on my Model 3, which my kid and my ex drive. Have I made amends with Now You Know? No. I don't know that there's amends to be made. Do they know who I am? How is FSD? So we're waiting for 10.13. I drove FSD beta in my Model 3 a little bit recently, and I drove, my brother is, as far as I know, the first posthumous award of FSD beta. He got FSD beta on his car after he passed away. And so I drove his car in FSD beta, and I, like, compared to driving my Model X, which has regular FSD without beta, it is so much better. Oh my God, it is so much better. And by the way, I'm driving my Model X, and you guys know about adaptive cruise control. Like your cruise control is set at 75 miles an hour, and there's a car in front of you going 65. The car will slow down, seeing the car in front of you. It'll slow down and not rear end the car in front of you. That's adaptive cruise control. I was driving this car in not auto steer, just the cruise control, because with auto steer it drives too slow. And we're approaching a curve, and the car slowed down for the curve in adaptive cruise control. Like, I'm still steering, and the car slowed down in advance of the curve. Like, mind blowing. Tesla garage door opener? I didn't even know they had a garage door opener. Have I made amends with Now You Know? I don't watch Now You Know. I don't know them. What do I think of BYD? Is it a threat in China? Okay, I'm going to say this again. Other electric vehicle makers are not threats to Tesla. They are threats to internal combustion engine cars and internal combustion engine car makers. The market is 90+% internal combustion engine cars. If somebody makes a good EV, then it takes market share from gas cars, not from Tesla. So nobody's a threat to Tesla yet, because until the car market is all EV, no one's a threat to Tesla, because every good EV takes market share from a gas car. It doesn't take market share from other EVs. When will the long-range Model Y be made with the new 4680 batteries? Great question. Let's talk about this for a second. So I believe, based on multiple points of information, that the Texas Model Y 4680 that is not available on the website yet is actually a long-range Model Y of a different type. That the 4680 battery pack, it's been reported that the battery is about 67, 69 kilowatt hours. I believe that it's really an 80 kilowatt hour pack, which is just short of the 82 kilowatt hours in the long-range Model Y. And the vehicle's lighter, so it may end up having the same range. Ryan from Kilowatts was charging a 4680 Model Y, and the charge rate at the top was faster than it should have been. Nickel-based cells, you can't cram the electrons in fast enough or the ions in fast enough. They have to slow down because it's hard to get the electrons in or the ions in at that point. So the charge rate slows down, and the charge rate didn't slow down enough, and that suggests that there's more room, and we need a software unlock. Limiting factor, I believe this is public, said that the 4680 cells appear to be about 98 watt hours. So 828 cells times 98 watt hours would be about an 80 kilowatt hour pack. So I think we're looking at an 80 kilowatt hour pack. At some point, they're going to say, hey, $2,000, you're going to unlock the extra range, or $5,000, you're going to unlock the extra range. That's what I think is going on, that the 4680 is already a long-range Model Y. And then the question is, will the next generation of battery cells next year will have more watt hours per cell? And it'll go from 340 miles of range to 380 miles of range, something like that. That's coming next year. So, hope I answered that question. Oh my God, people are obsessed with Tesla phone. There's no Tesla phone. It's not happening. I don't know what 4680 consumption is. First ICE bankruptcy. That's a good question. I'd guess General Motors, but I don't know. Tesla getting into logistics and deliveries after FSD is solved. Maybe. That's not a crazy idea, Tesla Mars phone. People just obsessed with Tesla phone. You're all on your phones too much. That's why you want to see a Tesla phone just because you're on your phones all the time. All right. Where is Tesla in 3 years? Well, okay. That's a great question from Moon, so let's address that. Oh, Sentient first. Sentient says, will SpaceX try to land the booster? Maybe. They're at least going to do a soft water landing of the booster. It appears they might try to catch it with the chopsticks. Where is Tesla in 3 years? So let's start with, where was Tesla last year? About 930,000 vehicles with 1.5 factories. Let's go to next year. 4.5 factories. Probably going to see 3 million plus vehicles in 2023. That's a fairly bold prediction. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but there was 1.5 factories in 2021, Fremont and half of Shanghai, because Shanghai started small and grew. And in 2023, Shanghai is going to be fully ramped, delivering 1 million vehicles a year. Plus, they're going to start building another factory in Shanghai. We'll see how far they get with that one. Depends on when they start building it. Then you've got Giga Texas will be pretty close to fully ramped with Model Y, two lines of Model Y, and Cybertruck's going to start middle of next year. Berlin's going to ramp. Fremont's going to grow. So I think we're going to see 3 million vehicles in 2023. Now you go to 2024, because you're saying 3 years. I'm only going 2 years ahead now to 2024. You're going to see robotaxi factories springing up. At some point, you're going to see FSD go to wide release, and you're going to see robotaxis. And I don't want to predict that, but just going on the cars alone, 3 million vehicles in 2023, probably more than 4.5 million, maybe 5 million vehicles in 2024. And then 2025, you're looking at like 8 million vehicles to 10 million vehicles. And then you question, when do we see the robotaxi network go live? And when does bot start becoming significant? So there's a lot of things coming in the next 3 years. We'll be the top 3 automakers in the US in the year 2030. Tesla, Tesla, and Tesla, obviously. Did you reserve your... I did not reserve a semi-truck. No, that's a big deposit. If another company were to hire Karpathy, who do you think it would most likely be? I don't think anybody has a business model that would make sense for Karpathy to bring him in. Gary Utano says regarding Dish, won't a Dish win kill Starlink, Starship, and shortly no thereafter? It won't kill Starship. It'll affect Starlink. I don't think it'll kill Starlink. Oh my God. At some point, Elon will make a phone take huge market share from Apple. Read, there's a blogger named Tim Urban who has a blog called Wait But Why. Read his blog, and Tim Urban talks about what motivates Elon to get into an industry. And it's not, he looks for industries where there's an opportunity to do a 10x improvement. So Boring Company is a 10x improvement over existing tunneling technology. And Tesla EVs are a 10x improvement over old gas cars. And SpaceX is a 10x improvement over the old rocket industry. Neuralink is a 10x improvement over whatever people have been trying to do with a brain before. There's no 10x improvement in phones because unlike those other industries that got ossified, like space and tunneling and car industry, the phone industry is hotly competitive. They're constantly adding new features. They're constantly improving the phones. The opportunity for a big improvement, I just don't think is there. That's why there's no phone. Neuralink is going to replace phones anyway. And subscribe to any channel that says Tesla phone is the thing. I love that. Philip says, I really don't understand why some states and countries aren't manufacturing friendly. Wouldn't it make sense to attract a big employer to invest in your community? Because politics, because the states are addicted to the unions, and the unions want their pull, and then they basically lose jobs to satisfy the unions. Luke asked any news on Podcar. Podcar is on hold until I get settled, which should be next month, and then I'm gonna make some progress on Podcar then. BYD to the moon. I think BYD has great prospects. I'm very excited about BYD. I think I just heard a report that NIO may have misstated their earnings or some claim like that. Don't hold me to that. That's not. I think there may be some issues with NIO Motors. Cycle Gamer says, I think chargers make closer to $2,500 to $3,000 a day. Napkin math, the average car costs $7 every 30 minutes to charge. $7? A lot more than $7 for 30 minutes. With 12 stalls over 18-hour time frame, they're banking on chargers now, at least in the ATL. Yeah, I just think no matter what you do, you can't get it up to $1 billion a year in revenue. It ends up being chump change compared to everything else. The new factories are, for those who missed the beginning of the video, the new factories are Kansas City. I'm predicting the new factories are Kansas City, Daejeon, South Korea, and Osaka, Japan, which I've been saying Osaka for a long time, so that's not news for me to say that. Why is Elon going to war with Trump? Oh my goodness. Elon is not going to war to Trump. Trump is going to war with Elon. Elon says what he thinks. He likes Ron DeSantis. He thinks that Trump is divisive, and he says what he thinks, and all of a sudden Trump starts trash talking Elon after previously saying he's a genius. And he lies about Elon saying he voted for Trump. Who knows? Could Tesla potentially make its own semiconductor fab for further vertical integration? They've talked about that before. Elon said he didn't want to make a chip fab because the lag time, it takes a long time to build a chip fab, and there's other companies that are good at that. Again, it's the same sort of thing. There are other companies that are really good at building chips, so why would Tesla get into that business? It's not like they can do 10x better than other companies that are already making chips. So they just work, it's a competitive market, they can get chips at a reasonable price, so they just keep working with people who make chips. Okay, where are we? Build a carport with solar roof. Your car won't get as hot. You'll use less energy when getting inside it. I don't hate that idea. That's pretty good, Oliver. That's pretty good, Oliver. I like that thinking. A carport with solar panels on the roof, maybe. Yeah, that's pretty good, Oliver. That's good thinking. I like the carport idea because my car does bake in the sun up there. But I don't expect to be there that much anymore, so. Tesla makes a garage door opener, check your app. I thought the garage door opener is built into the car. With Meta making a big push for that multiverse, do you think Musk could be tempted to give Zuckerberg a run for his money without knowing how advanced Dojo has become? I don't think Dojo has anything to do with the multiverse. And I don't think Elon is interested in pursuing the multiverse. I think Elon thinks that the multiverse is it may be something, but I think Elon thinks that people are overestimating Web3 and multiverse and all that stuff. Metaverse, multiverse. Naturally, Trump saw an opportunity to give himself some publicity. Yes, of course. 4 out of 5 voices in my head said I'm not crazy. Neuralink will be busy moderating my thoughts. Will Tesla bots ever be able to become pregnant? No, I don't think so, but I think there's an interesting question. If you get to the point of digital artificial general intelligence, will it be possible if you have one digital artificial intelligence entity and another digital artificial intelligence entity, would they be able to mate in some way and share characteristics? If you had, let's suppose you were uploaded your consciousness, and somebody else uploaded their consciousness, would you be able to mate the consciousnesses without the physical body, without the physical stuff? I think that's an interesting question. Is it next year SpaceX IPO? I heard a rumor that Starlink will IPO next year. SpaceX is probably never going to IPO, but Starlink might IPO. My prediction, I should probably do a video about a Starlink IPO. My prediction is that Starlink will IPO. They will only sell off 10% of the company. It will have a $100 billion valuation, so they'll raise $10 billion, which will fund the build out of the Starlink network. It's going to be a cash machine generating huge cash for existing shareholders, for SpaceX, which is going to own 90% of the company afterwards. Elon owns about 40-50% of SpaceX, so huge opportunity there. I looked into AST Spacemobile. No, I have no idea what that is. All right, I think we're about done. Where are we on time? We're about an hour in. Spiders don't bite unless humans sit or lay on them. Okay. Are Tesla bots a he, she, or they? I don't know what are Tesla bots' pronouns. That's a good question for Elon. Did I park there just so we could all see the Lake Placid Tower in the background? Is the Lake Placid Tower in the background? The Lake Placid Tower is that way. That's not the tower. Karpathy gets hired by Elon's Twitter, Tesla. No, I think he's going to go academia. What's the most powerful ice car that your Pladex has beaten off the road? I don't really drag race people. I go off at the lights sometimes, but I'm not like racing anyone. Will Tesla bots have an advantage getting into Harvard? Spiders eat bugs that try to bite humans. Spiders are great. Okay. Why are so few pushing for Tesla port to be the charger standard in the US? Make the other car companies make an adapter. I think there's a good argument for Tesla charger to be the standard. That's why it won't happen. Yeah, some people are talking about Dish trying to take control of 12 gigahertz or something like that. So please check out that and sign the petition. I don't have the link to the petition handy, but please sign that petition. There was some way of communicating with the FCC and with your representatives in Congress to say, hey, I support SpaceX and Starlink on this issue with Dish Networks. How much true Tesla share price today in your opinion? I think Tesla stock is worth $2,500 a share easy. If you see the growth path and you see where it's going to go to $10,000 a share not that far down the road, what would you pay today for a company that's going to grow that much? Power grids across the country are at capacity without mass infrastructure upgrades. Forget about mass adoption. I think this is a common misunderstanding. So if you charge at night, then the power grids are not at capacity. The power grids are relatively free at night. So the key is charging at night solves this problem. Look through your port side door, back door, sunroof. What? No, the tower's over there. There's no tower here. Oh, the water tower. Oh, interesting. There's another tower in there's an actual tower in there's an actual tower in Lake Placid. I thought you were talking about the tower. There's an actual like a tower that people used to go up and look out over things. This is a water tower. Sorry, you had me confused, Neil. What do I think about the head of Tesla AI retiring? Already talked about that. I think he's going to go into academia. I don't think it's a big hit to Tesla. Will Cybertruck net margin be higher than Model Y? Ooh, that's a good question. Yes, I think it will be, because I think they're going to price Cybertruck very high at first. And the manufacturing model should be less expensive than the current model for Model Y, but we'll see. We don't know enough about Cybertruck manufacturing to know that answer that question, really. Any thoughts on U.S. military competition with China for the future? So, I think the United States interventionist foreign policy with the military all over the world is unsustainable. We're bankrupting our country. I think the military competition is irrelevant. The economic competition is the problem. And I don't mind China succeeding economically. What I don't like is we're hurting our own country economically. China's economy is probably already larger than the U.S. economy. China's economy is growing faster than the U.S. economy. It's possible that the population collapse in China might affect that, but I think for the next 20, 30 years, China's going to grow faster than the U.S. and we're going to become the second. They're going to become the largest world power. And the question I would ask you is, well, why do we need to why would we maintain a military to compete with a country that has a much larger economy than us? At some point, maybe we just accept that China rules Asia and we focus on the Western Hemisphere, which was the Monroe Doctrine, and we stop interfering around the world. But, that depends on you guys telling your members of Congress you want them to stop all this crap, but they're not going to stop. Is the nearest level 2 charger at the Sebring Airport? There are 2 Tesla chargers at the Sebring Airport, and there are 2 Tesla chargers at the hotel by the racetrack, although I don't think you should use the hotel chargers without going in and buying something. So I usually go in there and buy a meal. And the nearest superchargers are far. Do I think employee retention is a problem in Tesla? Employee retention is a problem for every company. I don't think that employee retention is a particular problem for Tesla. Karpathy worked there for 5 years. J.B. Straubel worked at Tesla for a long time. Jerome Guillen worked at Tesla for a long time. If people work at a company for 8, 10 years or 5 years, that's not bad. If you're losing people in 6 months, that's a problem. If you're losing people after 5 years, not as big of a deal. Will I update my Tesla forecast 2030, including different models? I just did a bunch of napkin math models. Not that long ago. I have updated my models. So, let's see. iROS Motorsports Audi RS3 4-door 5-cylinder turbo does 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds on the street with warranty. That sounds fake. I don't know who registration account is, but I'm starting to think you might be a fake account. Will Starlink provide phone service? No. No, Starlink needs an antenna that's large. The antenna is... Here, let's see. This is the... Unless you want to carry that around with your phone, then no. It's the technology doesn't work. The signal needs an antenna that size. China isn't a threat. The U.S. and China are so interdependent, they're never going to have a war. Exactly. Do I own any other publicly traded stocks or all in on Tesla? I own a little bit of Arcimoto. I'm trying to think if I own anything else. I might own a couple other things. I'm like 98, 99% Tesla. So, upcoming earnings estimate. I haven't looked at earnings yet. I'm expecting earnings to... I think we're looking for a beat, but I don't know enough. Ever been to the Fantasy of Flight near Sebring? No, I don't know what that is, Johnny Football. Send me an email with wredlick@gmail.com. I don't know what you're talking about. I'll go take a look if you tell me where it is. Email wredlick@gmail.com. Okay. Podcar update. The podcar is on hold until it gets steady in Canaveral. I'm not going to search YouTube for iROS. I don't care. 1.5 seconds sounds ridiculous. The tire limit is like 1.8 seconds, 0 to 60, so I think you're making it up. With the youth of structural pack, do I expect more new models coming soon? I plug and play on top of the pack. I expect that Model 3 will eventually be converted to structural pack. I don't think they're going to bother converting S and X to structural pack. Cybertruck will have structural pack. Semi might have structural pack. And the Robotaxi will have structural pack. And then if they do a Robovan, maybe that will have structural pack. Sri Lanka's economy is growing faster than the U.S. economy. Sri Lanka's economy's got some problems. Collier and Lee counties have many superchargers with more coming. Unfortunately, Highlands County does not have a supercharger yet. Drew, please get me a supercharger. Drew Baglino, calling Drew Baglino. Any new announcements expected at earnings? I don't think so. Maybe at the annual meeting, but I think we're really waiting for AI Day 2. Do I need help with the pod car? Not right now. I will need help with the pod car, but I don't need help yet. I'm definitely going to need some help with a couple of things I want to do, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get that done. What is my prediction for Starlink launch after the mini explosion the other day? I think they launched Starlinks. I think the mini explosion, I think you mean Starship? And you mean Starship launch? I don't think the mini explosion had much to do with anything. Elon said that there was minimal or no damage from that. They make mistakes, things break, and they learn from it. That's the way that's the way SpaceX works. Nothing to do with engineering. Which company does the best frappe? McDonald's or Starbucks? I don't drink frappe, so I don't know. Do I think Tesla shareholders can get an opportunity to buy pre-IPO for Starlink when they IPO? No. I don't know how that would work. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't think so. So, all right. Let's see. What else can we do here? Neuralink to Starlink connection. You need a big antenna. It doesn't work without a big antenna. Do 3Ds. I don't need design help. I know what I'm doing. I need to get my prototype built, and then we're going to do a funding round, or a crowdfunding round. Do I think Tesla shareholders will get pre-IPO Starlink offer? No. But I already answered that question. They said the same thing about Japan passing the U.S. economy in the 80s. Yeah, okay. But China has a much larger population than Japan, and they're growing fast. I mean, it's possible that China will squash their own growth. It is. I never underestimate a government's ability to screw things up. And the Chinese government could screw up their economy just like the U.S. government is screwing up our economy. But our government is screwing up our economy too. I don't know if China is going to continue to screw up their economy the way they have been. All right. So we're over an hour. Will Apple get into e-vehicles? No. Favorite burger restaurant? Favorite burger restaurant? I don't know. I don't like burger. I think honestly I like McDonald's, but I like Five Guys. I like BurgerFi has the Beyond Burger with bacon, of course. What is it? Burger King has the Impossible Whopper. I like burgers generally. I don't have a particular burger place I like better than others. Use the internet to reach a big antenna. You just need to be able to talk from your Neuralink to your Wi-Fi. Then it uses Starlink. Internet to reach a big antenna. Right. I mean, you can, but then you need like you need some sort of like WiMAX or something. No, the commercial, I inserted the commercial in the middle of the live stream. It's some feature that YouTube keeps prompting me, so every once in a while I say yes. I think I've done it once before. Did I change my mind on Lucid? No. When do I think 4680 cells will reach mass production? I think they already have. It's a question of growing more and more and more. I saw that Tesla is building cathode factories, cathode buildings for producing cathodes outside Giga Texas and maybe in Berlin. So we're going to see a lot more 4680 cells once they get cathode production, and that's probably what's going to take it to the dry battery electrode for the cathode. Is they need to do cathode production first. So Lucid goes flaccid. All right. What car will fit in your pocket? Sure. All right, everybody. So we're over an hour. I want to thank everybody for watching. My battery is down to 42%. 42. Hey, there we go. It's the meaning of life. It's time to end the live stream. So please check out my other videos. Please support this channel on the Locals platform, on Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. T-shirts like this one and this one. Please check out. I'm wearing this one right now, the Tesla Air shirt. Please check them out. elonbits.com. Thanks to the moderator.